All right, so I'm gonna do another facial analysis on OJ Simpson, and we're gonna see his facial score, and his overall facial rating is a 6.2. How rare is that? That's 1 in 8. Percentage of people is the top 12th percentile. His side facial score is a 54. His front facial score is a 39. His total facial harmony is a 44. His facial dimorphism is a 5. His body fat factors is a 9. His miscellaneous features is an 8. Tier list: Tier 1, ideal; Tier 2, near ideal; Tier 3, normal; Tier 4, slight flaw; Tier 5, flaw; Tier 6, huge flaw; Tier 7, breaks harmony. Alright, so this is overall facial assessment breakdown. The things that I feel like are the biggest flaws. His front side profile has a couple of major flaws. The chin to foot trim ratio deviates far from the ideal range because his chin is way too long compared to a short foot trim. The canthal tilt of his eyes is negative, and this can represent a multitude of problems like appearing to be tired or sad all the time. In the side view profile, the nose droops down, which is not ideal, and this can affect multiple measurements. The nose lacks projection, and this is also relative to the nasal bridge, and also indicates that his nose is way too flat. This is the rarity score of different celebrities, so you can compare. Alright, so his eye separation ratio. So how far apart is his pupils compared to his cheekbones? And is at 44.6%. And this is a tier 1. This is also ideal. His facial thirds supposed to be evenly distributed, which it is, and it shouldn't stray too far apart from 33% each, which it doesn't. So this is ideal. His canthal tilt is a negative 3.5, and a negative canthal tilt will drop his score by a lot, and his is fairly negative at 3.5, which is not ideal, and this does break harmony. His facial width to height ratio, so how compact is his mid-face, is a 1.75, so he does not have a very compact mid-face. This is probably stemming to his eyebrows being so high up his face, and this gives him a tier 5, which does break harmony. The jaw frontal angle is a tier 1, so this is good. He does have a good jaw frontal angle at 91 degrees, and this is ideal. His cheekbones high settiness, so high set is his cheekbones relative to his mid-face, and his is at 64%, and this is not ideal, so this also breaks harmony. His bigonial width, so how wide is his jaw relative to the cheekbone area, and it is at 89%, which is also in the ideal range, so this is perfect. So you do want a wide jaw, especially for a man. His total facial height width ratio, so how long is his face compared to how wide is his face, at 1.56, so this is at the very highest end, and this does break harmony completely, and this is a flaw. His chin to foot trim ratio is a tier 5. Again, this does break harmony. This is a flaw, and his chin is just a bit too long. His neck width, so how wide is his neck, and he does have a very wide neck, and this also does count for a sexually dimorphic trait, and having a wide neck is masculine, and his is at 98%, so it is 98% of his jaw width, and this is ideal. His mouth to nose width ratio, so your nose should not be too wide relative to your mouth, and your nose should be inside the middle of the inner creases of the eyes, which his is not. It's a little bit outside of it at 1.27, and that is a slight flaw. His mid-face ratio is perfect, so this is 1 or 1:1, and his is at 1, so that is within the ideal. His eyebrow steadiness is a tier 4, and this is a slight flaw. And his eyebrow high steadiness is too high up his face at 1.52, and this is a tier 4, which is a slight flaw, like I said again. and you want your eyes to be lower. It does create a masculine look, and it is more attractive for a man to have a lower set eyebrows relative to his eye line. His eye spacing, one eye test, so your eyes supposed to be one width eyes apart, and his is at 92%, so this is near ideal, so this is pretty good. His eye aspect ratio, so you want almond shaped eyes, and his is at 2.7, which is a little bit on the more rounder side of things, maybe because his lower eyelid is a bit droopy, as you can see right there, and that's probably stemming to his negative canthal tilt, like I said before. But this is still not bad. It's near ideal. His lower lip to upper lip ratio, so your lower lip is actually supposed to be a bit longer than your upper lip, and his upper lip is not too long relative to the lower lip, but it's still closer to the ideal, and it is near ideal at 1.25, and ideally you want at least 1.4, so he's not too far away from that. His deviation from his midface to his jaw frontal angle is at 8 degrees, and that is near ideal. Ideal is at least 5 degrees or less, so he is very close to it. His eyebrow tilt is at 4 degrees, so the tilt of his eyebrows is at 4 degrees, but it does look neutral. But if you look at the arches of the eyebrows, it does have a tilt to it. His bitemporal width, so going from the widest part of his forehead to the cheekbones, and it should be around 84 to 95%, and he is in between there at 89%, so this is ideal. So he does have a good forehead width. His lower third proportion, so his lower third proportion is supposed to be at 33%, and it is exactly at 33%, so it is perfectly distributed overall, so that is ideal. His ipsilateral alatar angle, so the angle created from the midface, from the subnasal all the way down to the ends of his eyes, or the outer regions of his eyes, and it is a tier 3, and this is a 99 degrees, and it falls a little bit short outside of the range at 95 at the upper end, and his falls 4 degrees outside of it, so this isn't too bad, so this is within the normal range. His gonial angle is 119 degrees, and this is perfect. His nasal frontal angle, so this goes from the nasal bridge down to the brow, and he does have a prominent brow, and this is very masculinizing at 115 degrees, so this is good. His mandibular plane angle is 17 degrees, and 17 degrees is within the ideal range. Ideally, it's supposed to be between 15 degrees and 22 degrees. This indicates that you do not have too downswung of a jaw or too flat of a mandible. So you don't want your mandible to be too downswung or too flat. If it's too flat, it's going to look too boxy, and his is perfectly in the middle. His ramus to mandible ratio, so the ratio of your ramus for a man, because it's a little bit different between man and women. Man should have at least 60%, and he falls a little bit short under that at 53%, but 53% is still near the ideal, so it's not too bad. Facial convexity from the glabella is at 174, so his facial convexity isn't too rounded or too flat, so this is perfect. His submental cervical angle, so this measures how high his hyoid is, and his hyoid is a little bit on the higher end, so this is a tier 4, and this is a slight flaw. His nasofacial angle, so this is the inner angle created from the nasal bridge down to the chin, and you want it to be at least between 30 to 36, and his is at 29, so this is a little bit outside of the range. Since it's a bit on the lower end, I have to give him a tier 3, so that's within the normal range still, but it's not going to be near the ideal range. This stems from other measurements that like I said before, with the droopy nose, and the droopy nose also affects other measurements, and the nasal protrusion also affects other measurements as well. So you're going to see why the nasal protrusion and the nasal bridge, or the nasal projection, is going to affect other measurements like this one. So yeah. Nasal labial angle, so this measurement determines how droopy or upturned the nose is, and his is at a lower end at 79 degrees. And this is also another flaw. And like I said again, this droopy nose is also going to affect the other measurements, as you will see later on. His orbital vector, so this determines how protrusive or um, deep set his eyes are relative to his face, and you do want a little bit of bone protrusion underneath the eyes. And he does not have very deep set eyes, or he does not have a lot of bone support underneath the eye, and that's why I gave him a negative or slightly negative orbital vector. It's ever so slightly, so this is a slight flaw. His total facial convexity, so the convexity of this is also including the nose, so it's pretty much like the regular convexity, just includes the nose as well. And he is at a tier 2, just outside of the range, and the range, I think, is the upper range is at 147, so he is slightly above it at a tier 2. So this is technically not a flaw, but like I said again, with the droopy nose, if it wasn't droopy, it would have been ideal. His mental labial angles, so this is the inner angle or the outer angle created from the lip, the bottom lip down to the chin. And ideally you want this to be a little bit more acute, or the angle to be a little bit more tighter than what it is right now at 134 degrees, and this is a slight flaw. And his bottom lip isn't really too projected, or his bottom lip isn't too projected. He does have a projected chin, but his bottom lip isn't as too projected as it needs to be. His facial convexity from the nasion is a tier 2 at 166 degrees, so this is technically not a flaw. Again, it is still outside of the ideal range, but it's technically not a flaw, so it's not that bad. His nasal projection is a 0.43, so this is at the very low end, and this is a tier 4, and this is a slight flaw. And like I said again, this is also going to affect the other measurements, like I already did before. And you preferably you do want a 52, at least a 0.52 to a 0.7 in nasal projection. You want it to be projected enough. This is very masculinizing, and the fact that his is not projected enough is going to be more feminized, so that's why. His nasal width to height, so how long is the nose relative to the width of the nose, and his is at 1.12, so he does have a very short nose relative to his face. His Ricketts E-line is a tier 3, and this is not ideal. It's because his bottom lip is actually touching the line, and it should not touch the line. His H-line goes from the top lip all the way down to the chin, and his bottom lip does touch the line, but it passed the line just a little bit. The S-line goes from the camella, so pretty much from like the middle of the nose down to the chin, and both lips are supposed to be in the line with the actual line, but it should not go past the line, so that's why I give it a tier 3. And the bursal line goes from the subnasal down to the chin, and preferably this is good, so the upper lip is supposed to be 3.5 millimeters past the line, and the lower lip is supposed to be 2.2 millimeters ahead of the line as well, and as you can see, this does that. The nasal mental angle is also it's within the normal range, but it's a little bit too wide, but it's very, very close to the ideal range, so this is technically not too bad. It's not really a flaw. His gonio to mouth relationship, so your gonion, like the actual bone, supposed to be below the mouth. This tells me that you do have a wide jaw body and that you do have proper alignment. This measurement measures how recessed your jaw is, and as you can see, his chin is past his glabella and also his nasion, and he is not recessed at all. The brow ridge inclination, this shows how inclined his brow ridge is relative to the Frankfurt plane angle at 25 degrees, and that is a little bit outside of the ideal range. His brow is a little bit too far back, and as you can see, he does have a lot of brow bossing, and the brow bossing is right here. The nasal tip is also ideal at the lowest range at 105 degrees. This is also a tier 1, so this is ideal. And he does have a very pointed nose. Even though his nose is downswung, is extremely pointed, so this is at the very lowest range of the ideal range, and this is good. All right, so if you want me to rate your face, I will have my email down in the description, or you can comment down below, and I will just give you instructions on what to do, and you should be able to get your face rating within 1 or 2 days. And yeah, so make sure you do that if you're interested, and please subscribe, like, and I'm out.